I founded Behance with my co-founder, Matthias Correa, about 7 years ago. And we started Behance with this effort to help organize and empower the creative world. We felt like creative people of all kinds are the people that make our lives worth living. These are the people that make us interested in things around us, help us understand the world around us. Yet this is probably the most disorganized community on the planet. And the thought was, let's try to build a business and a team and a whole base of content and tools to help organize creative people and have more meaningful and productive creative careers. And so over the past 7 years, we've built the Behance platform to be a massive platform of 1 million plus creatives all around the world who showcase their work and get opportunity and get attribution and credit for the work that they do. We've built the 99, which is a think tank all around the execution of ideas. And over the process, I wrote Making Ideas Happen, which is a book all about how people and teams across industries sometimes figure out a way to make ideas happen again and again, whereas most of us can't. And I think ideas are made to happen when you really get organized and become a better leader. My educational background was mostly business and a little bit of information design and various design courses as an undergraduate. And then I entered the corporate world for a number of years and realized, gosh, I really have this desire to start what would become Behance. So I went to business school at Harvard, where there are a number of professors who actually focus on the creative industries. And my intention going to business school was really, let's try to start this business and let's try to use the resources of the business school to try to get this business off the ground. And what I didn't realize is that 6 months into it, I realized I should probably just drop out. I had met Matthias, my co-founder, already. We had met Dave and Chris, who are the leaders of our technology team, and we were based in New York. And I was going back and forth to Boston every single week, and it just became really difficult and tiring. But what I ended up realizing is that the professors at the business school were almost like consultants for me, helping me with the business, and it would be a lot more expensive to hire them if I were not at the business school. So it ended up making sense. So I stuck with it, and we really built Behance, while I was finishing school in the early days, and then of course, the company really blossomed after I graduated. The idea for the book, Making Ideas Happen, was a long process. I was fascinated by how much everyone talked about creativity and inspiration, but nobody ever talked about the execution part, which to me is everything. All of the greatest ideas that make our lives better today existed in many people's minds and in many companies' minds, but only certain people actually made them happen and transformed life as we know it. So I wanted to understand how and why some ideas are made to happen and most never do. And I realized that it has nothing to do with how good the idea is. It actually has everything to do with the forces around the execution of the idea. So I started writing a lot about it because we were starting a business trying to help empower creative careers. And so all of the research that I was doing, going and interviewing designers or teams at companies like Apple or Google or other places like that, I realized that there was a lot of thematic content. There were a lot of patterns and best practices that I was hearing, and they were helpful in building Behance, but they were also starting to look like something that would be helpful for the world. And so I started to play with the idea of it being a book. But that took 5 years for it to really become a book. And it was funny because the process of making the book, Making Ideas Happen, was very much making an idea happen. And I was going through all of the stuff in the book as I was trying to make the book. So it was a very meta experience. Well, I think every company and team, large and small, and individual freelancers, we all struggle with making ideas happen. We all have different obstacles. Some of us in larger businesses deal with bureaucracy, and we deal with legacy issues, and we deal with people who don't care as much as they should about their job, and people who don't work with a bias towards action. In smaller teams, whereas we may not have bureaucracy, we struggle with too many ideas, what I call idea-to-idea syndrome. We struggle with disorganization and having to do every single department ourselves. Freelancers are their own marketing department, their own legal department, their own finance accountant department, and so there's a whole suite of struggles that we face on an individual level. So Making Ideas Happen also addresses the the clash between the two. At the end of the day, small freelancers and individual small teams work with large companies, and large companies work with small teams. So we all have to understand how to push ideas forward. And the book is meant to really prompt that conversation. Over the course of the research for making ideas happen, we realized that everyone has their own system for managing projects and tasks and staying productive. And that the more you find a system that works for you, the one that is attractive to you, the more likely you are to stay loyal to it over time. And we started to build our own system for our team that we called Action Method, which was really, it started as a paper product and it became an online tool to help people capture and manage the action steps that come up every day, with a real slant towards design, using design to push us towards taking action. And so that is, a part of our team, a part of our culture is the action methodology. And whenever we're in notes, we're doing it on paper. Whenever we're at our desk, we're using online tools to do that. Over the course of building Behance, I became very opinionated about design and about product and about the technology stack of how things should be built in terms of how a company builds and grows and what kinds of people should be hired and what kinds of investors you should work with. And as I really became more experienced with that stuff, there were a lot of other friends who were entrepreneurs who were thinking of starting businesses who would come to me and ask for advice about how they should start up their technology team or their design team, or how they should think about their market and how they should think about the story of their business and what they're actually trying to solve as a problem in this world. And I realized I was learning as much from them as I was gaining, or as they were gaining. It was a very mutual exchange. And every experience that I had with an entrepreneur and a new company was certainly helping us build Behance and learn about the world that we're in as well. And then when some of these companies said that they really needed financing and were people that I really trusted and respected and I felt had a great problem they were trying to solve, it was a really cool opportunity to get to be able to help fund their dream and help them make ideas happen, whether it's through capital and through advice and through other relationships that I had. So it became something that I really have been, became very passionate about and something that I continue to this day. Well, I believe that the greatest innovations come out of the intersection of different fields. And when you take architects and photographers or fashion designers and illustrators, when you overlap, you get great things. I think that in order for the creative industry to overlap with each other, all the fields within the creative world, technology is going to make that happen. But technology is not only going to solve problems, it also introduces problems. It makes it easier for creatives to do work and not get paid. It makes it easier for creatives to do work and not get the credit that they deserve. So what we want to do is also become a force of good for technology, empowering creative people rather than disempowering creative people. So Behance, being structured as a community for the creative world to connect, there are certain things we don't do. We don't allow crowdsourcing and spec contests within our platform. We don't allow work to be displayed without credit. And so I think that that's what fascinates me about the intersection of the creative industry and technology is really what you can do for creative careers. Well, we started the 99, which is our think tank, all about the execution of ideas about 5 years ago, with this effort to try to educate the creative community in Behance to have better and more productive careers. It was inspired by that Edison quote, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." And so what we do with the 99, with our annual conference and the articles that we write and the books that we publish, is just to help creatives have better careers. I think every company should try to engage creatives more directly. I think that some of the greatest creative work in the world is done when companies find creative people and teams that really match with their interests and work directly. And the more that can happen, the better. I think that platforms like Behance can help companies find talent and engage with them directly, or just follow them and see what creatives do and stay really posted with how their own creative work unfolds. I think that's one of the greatest things that companies can do. I also think that companies with their marketing and advertising can start to give credit to the creatives that work with them. How many times do you see an advertisement or a commercial and actually see the credit of who did it? But how much more authentic would that be? It would start looking more like art and less like advertising. and people are more moved by art than they are by advertising. So I think that that's really, really exciting. I think that the bias towards action and the forces for making ideas happen are consistent across all cultures. I also think, though, that there are nuances in every culture around what's appropriate or how to do things. And there are some cultures where it's okay to ask annoying questions in meetings in order to keep the process going. And then there are other cultures where that's not allowed. And there's some cultures where seniority and hierarchy matters more than other cultures. In the US, for example, failure is celebrated in the entrepreneurial community. But oftentimes in Europe, failure bars you from any future opportunity. So there are nuances in every culture that we need to navigate. But I actually think that every culture can learn from each other when it comes to entrepreneurship and making ideas happen and ultimately, rise for everyone. Well, at the forum, I hope that we can have a really actionable discussion about how to make ideas happen. I hope that people, when they're at the rest of the presentations, get tons of ideas and really become inspired. And then I hope that they also become frustrated because they want to actually make these ideas happen. They want to make their creativity count and mean something and do something. And I hope that some of the best practices and tips that I can share with our limited time together can really make an impact in in everyone's creative careers and help them start making more ideas see the light of day. Hi, I'm Scott Belsky, and I'll see you at the ICE Live Business Forum.